This NFL Week 7 Monday Night Football betting preview edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has added Pick'em Scorchers where you can win 100x. That's right, turn $5 into $500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $500. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. And we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And we're giving away $3,000 in our NFL Second Chance Survivor Contest presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. The contest starts this weekend, and it's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Saturday, October the 21st, currently 2:21 on the East Coast. Here to get into the Week 7 Monday Night Football game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. And joining me here to help me break it all down, you guys know him as the voice on the MLB Gambling Podcast, the NBA Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the NFL Gambling Podcast, it's Lonte Smith. Lonte, how's it going, my man?
I was on mute, sorry. Looking forward to this game, man. Doing good. I think that this will be an intriguing game for numerous ideas. I mean, for numerous topics, just injury reports. I think the Vikings are a little bit underrated coming into this game. So yeah, looking forward to breaking it down with you.
Yeah, the 49ers are coming in with a 5-1 record, taking their first loss in week six on the road in Cleveland against the Browns. And there was a plethora of injuries there that the 49ers were dealing with. And we'll get into that when we actually start handicapping the game here. But they did take their first loss of the season. No more undefeated teams left in the NFL. It was the Eagles and it was the 49ers that were left as the lone undefeated teams. And both teams lost in week 6. For the Browns, I mean, they're treading water, right? They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, especially obviously at that quarterback position for the Cleveland Browns. But they were able to put in PJ Walker and they beat the San Francisco 49ers. You look on the flip side, the Minnesota Vikings, I guess, a lot of people were saying that they were fortunate last season in one-score games, and that's why they had their record. And that's kind of regressed back to the mean this season right now, where they are sitting at 2-4 on the season. They're winless at home thus far this season, 0-3 for the Minnesota Vikings. Both of their victories have actually come on the road, which was against the Chicago Bears, I believe, and also the Carolina Panthers. So looking to get their first win at home against one of the best, if not the best team in the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC. I think, we've talked a lot about the 49ers on the pod, Lonte, but I think the more conversation probably has to be about this Minnesota Vikings team because the last season, like I mentioned, they ran away with the NFC North division in the first year with Kevin O'Connell as the head coach. Justin Jefferson had a monstrous season last year, got off to the same start, and he's at least going to be missing another 3 games or another 2 games, not including the Monday Night Football game with the hamstring injury. He was put on the IR, but he had got off to a monster start as well. But I think also added to the fact that they let Dalvin Cook go and thought Alexander Mattison was going to be that guy for this backfield, but it just hasn't panned out for Alexander Mattison in that running game. But I guess what have you kind of seen from this Vikings team that makes you a little bit more optimistic than maybe people want to give them credit for?
Well, I mean, I don't want to give them too much credit just because of quality opponent. I mean, like you mentioned, the Bears and the Panthers, not really formidable opponents per se. 49ers have easily played the tougher schedule, and it's hard to believe that the Vikings haven't won a home game and they have such a good home field advantage.
Mhm.
Being in that building. So, what I've seen is I saw the defense has been improving under Flores game by game, but again, kind of you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt with the offenses that they played. Chicago, the Panthers, obviously not murderer's row of offenses, and this definitely would be a step up in class for them on both sides of the ball. But I think the defense is improving. I do think that they have some like the offense is better, and this is even with them being one dimensional. Like they are literally one dimensional. Madison can't run the ball. They got Akers. I don't even think he's played 10, 15 snaps since he's been there. I don't know if he's still banged up or what the deal is, but I thought he would be a decent addition for them. Not letting Madison carry the bulk of the carries and kind of splitting up his time like they did with Dalvin, which he was more effective doing that. But like Kirk is playing well, man. I think he's top 2 in touchdowns. Got I think 13-4 touchdown interception ratio, and this is with teams like dropping 8 in coverage and him without Justin Jefferson. So he's playing well. I like the offense. I think the defense is trending up. If they can just get the run game going a little bit, I don't know if they'll be able to get it going here against this 49ers defense, but I just think at home, I think they'll be better than they have been. They had kind of a game a few weeks to get adjusted to without Justin Jefferson. I think Addison stepped up in a big way. They got to get a couple more of those guys going, so it's not just more one dimensional. I would love to see Hawkinson get going here. He needs to see double-digit targets, in my opinion, because that's the only way you're going to have a chance to beat this 49ers defense. It's over the middle. So I think that the Vikings are I think they're live here, to be honest with you. I really do. I think they're going to be live here.
Yeah, I think for this Niners team, and we'll get into the game here in a second, but I mean, I think if you look at their schedule, like you could say that, okay, they took care of business against teams that like they were supposed to take care of, right? I mean, they started this season, which I know a lot of people were on the Steelers, including myself, in week 1, where they took care of the Steelers, but then they had the Rams, Giants, Cardinals, they clobbered the Cowboys, so not really a murderer's row there. And then they lost to the Browns last week, obviously with the injuries that they did suffer on the offensive side of the football. But I mean, look, they're winning games that they're supposed to. The schedule does, I mean, it's not the hardest schedule for the San Francisco 49ers this season. Like we mentioned, obviously they have Monday night against the Vikings, and then they do have a tough game as they welcome Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals to town, and then they go to Jacksonville, welcome Tampa, and then road games in Seattle and against the Eagles. So we'll see how healthy this team can be going forward for the San Francisco 49ers, because they have been pretty good. All right, Lonte, before we actually get into the games here, or the game for Monday Night Football, let me tell everyone about the SGPN Second Chance Survivor Contest and also the NFL Gambling Podcast Review Contest. So 2 contests happening on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. First, if you've already been knocked out of your NFL Survivor, don't worry. We got you covered with the SGPN Second Chance Survivor, presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. $3,000 up for grabs. Winner takes all. It starts this weekend. So if you're getting to this pod before the Sunday games kick off, you want to make sure to get into that contest. It's absolutely free to get in. It's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor, where you can sign up. Again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. And also, like I mentioned here at the NFL Gambling Podcast, we're having a reviews contest. So leave an Apple Podcast review with your favorite TD related bet for this weekend. The biggest winner with the longest odds that hits an anytime touchdown bet gets a $50 SGPN gift card. But make sure to also include the odds in the review and also your YouTube username. So 2 requirements: make sure you leave the odds for the touchdown prop bet and also your YouTube username so we can contact you and you are the winner. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. Underdog has introduced Scorchers. Go 5 for 5 and pick up Scorchers and enjoy a spicy 100x payout. And for a limited time, Underdog is extending the first-time deposit bonus of up to $500. $100,000 Sundays continues on Underdog Fantasy. 10 lucky players will win $10,000 each. So watch along, make your picks, and make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $500. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy using promo code SGPN. All right, Lonte, let's get into the Monday Night Football game here. Before, I think we should mention is how we did last week on the Sunday night game. The Monday night game between the Cowboys and the Chargers. I took the Dallas Cowboys on the money line, thinking that they would get it done. I think our biggest bet that you and I both talked about, not only on the pod but off the pod, was the CeeDee Lamb ladder. We kind of have this trend going now with disgruntled or wide receivers that are coming out and making a case of that they need to be fed footballs more. So that one really panned out for us last week with CeeDee Lamb. I know you had the hover. The opportunities were there. It seemed like early on they scored 7-7 in that first quarter, but then after that the offense just kind of fell off. But I think we did have a pretty good, Monday Night Football episode last week.
Yeah, I think I was on the wrong side of it. You picked the Cowboys. I had the Chargers. I had a chance there at the end of the game, but Justin Herbert was bad that whole game. He was missing. He missed several times, especially in key moments with Keenan Allen. I think he missed Keenan Allen on 2 touchdowns, to be honest with you. But I didn't think the Cowboys played any better than. I think it was pretty much a split game, pretty even. Just that Staley kind of was the worst coach, believe it or not, against McCarthy. But yeah, I thought it was going to be a shootout from the get-go with both teams going.
It seemed like it.
Yeah, I think the play calling kind of killed that with both coordinators or I guess head coaches and then a coordinator, because Mike McCarthy calls the plays there. But yeah, man, overall I thought it played out kind of what I thought it would be, although just with a little bit more scoring and with the Chargers coming out in the end. But I think we both mentioned it wouldn't be surprised with any outcome that happened in the game. So I wasn't really surprised at all, just more so just on the wrong side of it. That's all.
Yeah. All right, let's flip the page here. Let's get over to the Monday Night Football game for Week 7 to round out Week 7. It's going to be, like I mentioned, the 49ers. They are in Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Currently, as the line stands, the 49ers are a touchdown favorite, -7 as a road favorite here, going up against the Minnesota Vikings at home. Total is sitting at 44 in this game. Let's get over to the injury report for both teams. I think it's a little more significant for the San Francisco 49ers. As we talked about on the pod earlier on the episode, a lot of guys on the offensive side left the game last week against the Cleveland Browns for the San Francisco 49ers. So as it stands, as of Friday's practice, Christian McCaffrey didn't practice. He has an oblique injury. He left the game last week, didn't return. Deebo Samuel dealing with a shoulder injury, didn't practice on Friday either. He's also listed officially as questionable. And then offensive tackle Trent Williams is also listed as day-to-day and questionable for this game. He did avoid a high ankle sprain in Week 6 against the Cleveland Browns, but again, he is right now day-to-day. Also, Dre Greenlaw, linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, is dealing with a hamstring issue. He did log a limited practice session on Friday. So those are some significant injuries that we need to keep an eye on as we approach the Monday Night Football game. So again, make sure to check that injury report depending on who you do bet on in this game. On the Minnesota Vikings side, we know about Justin Jefferson. He's going to be missing a second consecutive game after be putting on the IR with the hamstring issue. Other than that, it's pretty clean for them. Only person I do see is Jalen Nailor, wide receiver, but he's really probably the 4th or 5th guy coming off of the wide receiving group there for the Minnesota Vikings. And also Caleb Evans, cornerback, is also dealing with an oblique injury. He was a limited participant as well at practice on Thursday. Lonte, let's start with the spread here. -7 right now as it stands in favor of the San Francisco 49ers. What are you thinking about the spread here?
Yeah, so I like the Vikings here at home getting a touchdown. 49ers have struggled as touchdown favorites on the road. I think they are 0-2 on the road as a touchdown and more favorite. Vikings are pretty good covering bigger numbers at home. I don't think I don't want to give or put too much into the 49ers loss. I mean, I know it was a bad loss. They probably should have won. It shouldn't have been it shouldn't have came down to what it came down to. But again, when you go into a game and you have your guys, and all of a sudden you lose Debo, then you lose Christian McCaffrey, then you lose Trent Williams. It's kind of like you are not accustomed, or your game plan hasn't really been revolved around anything else other than those three guys, the key guys in the lineup. So of course we've seen Brock Purdy struggle. Probably the worst he's looked this up to this point. But again, I don't want to put too much into it. So I'm not really going with the Vikings just because of that, because I think the 49ers will be more equipped and the game plan will be better, obviously, going in, knowing that maybe Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Trent Williams, if they do play, they'll be a little bit banged up. But I do think the Vikings defensively will be able to, like I said, keep taking progress steps up. I know Flores has got those guys a little bit more equipped to his system. I do think that he'll bring a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy, just simply because you're gonna have to test him out to make sure that he is able to, complete these passes at a high rate in the tight windows. That's what I think you got to have him do. Got to get him off schedule to not get those third and shorts, third and 2, 3. You want to keep him in third and medium or longer, and I think the Vikings can be able to do that. Offensively, like I said, they've just been more one-dimensional. I just don't think that Kirk Cousins is getting any kind of help from the run game at all. Madison is bottom 5 in efficiency as far as running backs. So I would love to see the ground game get going, but again, not sure we can see it against this 49ers front. But I do think the Vikings can have success through the air. I think Hawkinson will be a big part of that. Maybe we see Madison as a receiver more. Last week, I think Kareem Hunt had a decent day receiving. I think he had 4 catches for like 39 yards. 30 to 39 yards or something like that. So I think we could see Madison in the slot more, kind of loosen up that defense, and maybe you can hit some explosives down the seam with Hawkinson. But I do think Kirk Cousins has a big game. I think he's having an underrated season. If I was one of those teams, honestly, man, if I was one of those middling teams, I would try to get Cousins. I mean, he is a floor raiser, especially for a team like Atlanta. You look at who else is a middling team that could use Kirk Cousins? I know Atlanta is probably the main one that I think could use.
And I don't want to say Tampa, but
What
Tampa's
about
been okay with Baker.
now that Tampa is a good place too.
Yeah.
I think Kirk is getting a little.
Colts maybe. They have Anthony Richardson, but he's gone for the year as well.
Yeah,
so.
But you don't want to bring Kirk in, and then he's coming back. But yeah, I think like Tampa, Tennessee, if you want to kick the tires, and I don't think Malik Willis is any good right now. Don't really want to play Levis either. But yeah, I just think Kirk is having a good year. He had a good year last year. I think he will continue to have some positive success here against the 49ers, even though they have a tough defense. But I think they'll be able to get behind him at home as long as they can keep him protected.
Yeah, I think in this game that it's going to be on obviously the shoulders of Kirk Cousins. And I think that it probably took at least one game for them to figure out life without Justin Jefferson and trying to figure out, okay, who can Kirk Cousins rely on to throw that football? Because, I mean, when we talked about this Vikings offense, especially last season, it was like for Kirk Cousins, it was like, all right, I'm just going to throw the ball down there to Justin Jefferson. He's some way, somehow, he's going to find the ball and he's going to catch it. And it's like, fuck it, let's throw it down there to Justin Jefferson. He's going to make a play. But I mean, last week, you kind of go back to the box score. You only had 181 passing yards, especially against a Chicago Bears pass defense, which has not been very good this season, to say the least. TJ Hawkinson, 8 targets. Alexander Madison out of the backfield had 7 targets. And then KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison had 5 targets each. So I think for this Vikings team and Kirk Cousins is going to have to be quick stuff, because that defensive line and that front is going to get after him. And they can cause havoc. So I think it's going to be quick throws for Kirk Cousins, which, there's either going to be Hawkinson in like hook routes or curl routes, or Madison out of the backfield. I think that's going to be one of the important parts of this game offensively for the Minnesota Vikings. I tend to agree with you here. I lean with the Vikings in this game. I would not lay a touchdown right now, even though it is the San Francisco 49ers. I know they're coming off of the loss, and but I think the concerning part of this offense is that it goes very, very vanilla, and it just turns into a standstill when you're missing 2 key guys like Christian McCaffrey and Debo Samuel. I think if one of those 2 guys does go, do you? I think people would prefer having Christian McCaffrey out there because he's a guy that can come out of the backfield, run the football for you, and also catch passes out of the backfield as well, right? We've seen that. That's what's been successful for the San Francisco 49ers team. But I think for the Vikings, I think that they can, move the ball here effectively. Whether it's again Madison maybe has some success here, maybe not, but I think it's really going to be on the shoulders of Kirk Cousins in this game. But I think a touchdown is too much here for the San Francisco 49ers. I think this line definitely is going to move up if one of the two guys is ruled in. Maybe it goes 7.5, maybe 8 if both are ruled in. But I think that this is a good spot here for the Minnesota Vikings at home catching the points. I think this is a game where the 49ers do win the game, but it could be in the neighborhood of about 4 to 6 points where they do win this game. Getting over to the total here, Lonte currently sitting at 44. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's kind of correlated to me. I think if you like the Vikings, is going to be more of a high scoring game simply because their offense is the strength of their team. And if the 49ers are going to win, I think they'll win a more low scoring, 14 to 17 type of game. I think it has to be north of 24 points if the Vikings are going to win, just simply based on the style of offense that they play. They're not going to be able to grind out the game and run the ball to use clock, or even try to, if they fall behind, they definitely aren't capable of doing that. So I do think it matters with Christian McCaffrey and Debo being actually all three guys being in, and if they are in, how effective are they in that specific in their specific role. So I do lean to the over, because if those guys are in, I think that it opens up some mismatches on the outside, especially with Christian McCaffrey in the slot. I think both backs honestly can have disadvantages with Madison in the slot and Christian McCaffrey in the slot. But again, you got to kind of think, if those guys go, like, are their usage, is the usage going to be up high enough for them to score points here? So I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm going to go with the over here. I think we have to see 24-21 type of game, 27-24 type of game. But I do think the Vikings are alive. I think they can win the game outright, to be honest with you, as long as they can get something on the ground going. They got to get, if they can get 75 to 80 yards going, I think that they'll be able to loosen up the outside, bring the safeties up a little bit, and Kirk will be able to have a good day.
Yeah, I was indifferent on the total here. I mean, you're right. It feels like it's going to be like a 24, like 24-21, 24-20 type of game here for this game. I feel like this number is a little bit spot on. I mean, projected score seems like it's going to be based off of the total. Let's say 44, around what, 25, 26, 26, 21, something. No, 20, 24, 21, 24, 27, 20, something in that neighborhood.
It's got so I see,
what's the team totals? You see that
26 and a half and 18 and a half.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so like a 27.
Yeah, 27, 17, 27,
Yeah,
18.
there you go. Yeah.
Like
So they, at least I did, because a lot of games don't land in those 8-9 ranges. It's either like 3-7-10, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'll lean with the over. Nothing I really truly love about that. But I think as far as a side end total, my more fair play is gonna be on the Vikings plus the 7 here.
Yep.
Especially at home. I think definitely wait up until game time, because I think you'll see that public money come in on the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. That number may be pushed past that touchdown here. All right, Lonte, before we get over to some player props in this game, let me tell everyone about Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't have to be stressful. Game Time is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets, their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have. The app is just so easy to use. There's some great features on there. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They have images of your seat view as well before you actually buy the ticket, so you won't have any surprises when you actually get to the venue. No obstruction in your way. Lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection as well. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Like I mentioned, exclusive flash deals on tickets not only for football, basketball, or baseball. They also have tickets for concerts, comedy shows, and theater, and much more right near you. The Game Time Merit guarantee means you'll always get the best price. Get this: if you find cheaper tickets on another outlet, Game Time in the same section and row, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are in their prices. And like I mentioned, you get the images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you expect when you actually arrive at the venue. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set to go. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you don't have to haggle through the mailbox or even your email box. They are sent right there to your phone. So all you got to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download a Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And lastly, we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bets with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets, revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first one today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Lonte, let's get into some player props here for this Monday Night Football game. Anything that excites you as far as player props?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's National Tight End Day this week. So we're going to go with one of my favorite plays, Hawkinson, over 49.5 receiving yards. You mentioned that he had – did you say he had 8 targets or 8 catches last week? Was it 8 targets?
He had 8 targets. He had 6 catches for 50 yards.
Yeah, so that needs to be probably about 12 and 8 or 9-ish here in this game. I think over the middle with those, the San Francisco 49ers have probably one of the best, if not the best, linebacking core in the NFL. Great in coverage. So it will be it won't be easy, but I think O'Connell can scheme him open, and it'll be good. Kirk is a lot more effective whenever he's able to find that security blanket in Hawkinson. It actually eases up for the outside receivers, Osborne, Addison, who's probably playing more slot than anything, especially with Justin being out. So I like Hawkinson over 49.5 receiving yards. I'm going to go with Kirk over 238.5 passing yards as well. I think it's going to be a big Kirk Cousins day. You also can find him at plus money for over 1.5 touchdowns. I think that's a good play as well. If we both lean to the over, I think it's all predicated on the success of Kirk Cousins' arm. And, I mean, we mentioned it, Madison is not being effective. So, I mean, he'll get maybe a goal line carry or two. But other than that, they're going to pretty much put it in Kirk Cousins' hands and let him lead the way. So, over 238.5 passing yards for Kirk Cousins and over 49.5 receiving yards for Hawkinson. On the San Francisco side, look, man, I don't really know. It's hard to gauge props, especially with the injuries and stuff going on, and who's going to play, how effective they're going to be if they do play, and what to do without them. So I'm kind of in a wait-and-see approach for the 49ers side. Obviously, I'll be interested in George Kittle. If those guys are especially ruled out, I think he'll be a big target for Brock Purdy. But outside of that, I'm staying away from the 49ers until I get a little bit more information on if those guys are going to play or not.
Yeah, I think the only one that I would side I would look at, I'm sorry, for the Niners side would be Brandon Ayuk on his receiving yards. 67.5 right now is what I see the number at. You go back or you look at what's transpired this season for the San Francisco 49ers, and we know it's been the Christian McCaffrey show, right? I mean, there's no question about that for this 49ers offense, but just looking at the stats here, I'm trying to pull up the targets for this team. So right now, Brandon Ayuk leads his team in targets. Then it's Debo with 32, George Kittle 25. Then Christian McCaffrey 27, then George Kittle 25. But by far, Brandon Ayuk is leading this team in receiving yards. 454. The next guy on the list is Debo Samuel at 302. So I've seen a lot of games where Brock Purdy is just looking for Brandon Ayuk, and that's obviously showing up in the numbers. And he's gone over this projection of 67.5 in 1, 2, 3 out of the 6 games thus far this season. And I really don't trust the Minnesota Vikings secondary just yet. I think that for Brock Purdy and his offense to have success, I think they're gonna have to find a way to be effective through the air. And I think that's going to have to start with Brandon Ayuk. So at 67.5, I really do like that number to go over. I wouldn't be afraid to maybe ladder that up as well for Brandon Ayuk, but I do like it at 67.5. I argue about with you about TJ Hawkinson in this game. We know he's going to get the targets. It's just about him racking up the yards and again the receptions. But the books have adjusted to his number for his receptions because it is at 5.5. Typically early in the season, I know you and I talk about this a lot, is that that number was typically at 4.5 for TJ Hawkinson. But obviously with the injury to Justin Jefferson, that number obviously is going to peak up at 5.5 for TJ Hawkinson. But I still like it there at that number, whether you want to take the receptions or the receiving yards for TJ Hawkinson. Any other player props you may be looking at here, Lonte?
No, maybe Madison under 44.5 yards. I think rushing yards. I think I'd rather look at his receptions. Like I said, I think he'll be more effective in that slot roll out of the backfield on some check down. So I may look at his receptions over and his rushing yards under. But I mean, it's hard to tell with the 49ers. Other than Ayuk, I like the Ayuk play. Other than that, it's kind of hard to tell, especially not knowing who's going to play and who's going to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at pass attempts here for Kirk. Let me see if I can find that because that has been pretty much money.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
More times than not. I see that number at 36.5.
He's going to have to throw
Kirk, it. Yeah, for Kirk Cousins. And if they do get behind in this game, we know that obviously he's going to have to throw the football. Played 5 games this season. He's gone over it in 3 out of the 5 games. But when he does go over, like he goes over. So just to put in context, the numbers here: 44 pass attempts against the Eagles, 50 against the Chargers, 47 against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to pull up how opposing quarterbacks have done against the 49ers as far as pass attempts go.
Well, it's probably going to be inflated because they've been blowing out everybody. So they're playing for other teams are playing from behind. I know the 49. I mean, not the 49ers. I know the Cowboys. Dak was throwing it around a bunch because they were down. And it also might be inflated due to the game last week with PJ Walker not really throwing it a lot. So
yeah. So go back to week 1 Steelers with Kenny Pickett. They were trailing in that game. 46 pass attempts to Matthew Stafford, 55. Daniel Jones, 33. Josh Dobbs, 41. Dak had only 26. And then last week, PJ Walker had 34. So according to game script, again, if they are trailing, I do expect this team to be throwing the football, and especially when it comes to that fourth quarter. I mean, we know the Vikings are king of comebacks, or at least making games interesting and trying to keep it within the number. But maybe if you find a better live number on Kirk Cousins on his pass attempts, I think that might be worth a good look as well. Lonte, let's get over to some touchdown scores in this game. Anybody that's caught your eye in that market?
I'm looking at Alexander Madison touchdown. Let me see what he is. I'm trying to get an updated number for Madison.
Plus 155.
That's kind of short. Let me see. It's got to be a few more people that I'm looking at.
Christian McCaffrey minus 235.
Yeah, they don't even know if he's gonna play, but he's still that's crazy, man. I mean, it's free money, to be honest. I mean, he's just like an animal. Hawkinson is plus 220. I like him. I'm also going to look at I'm gonna look at Kirk Cousins plus 750. Maybe he can get a sneak in. A little scramble with the pass rush coming. So I'm looking at plus 750 for Kirk Cousins, and I'm gonna go with plus 240-ish. Do you see anything better than 240 for Hawkinson?
Hawkinson, I only see a plus. Yeah, it's probably gonna be around plus 220 to plus 240.
Yeah. Okay. So anywhere in that range, I like it. I think the volume is gonna be there, so I like that.
I was looking at George Kittle plus 155.
Can't go wrong.
And then I think Ayuk can also find the end zone. I think this is a big Ayuk week for the Niners, especially again, like we talked about the injuries that they are dealing with Christian McCaffrey and possibly Deebo Samuel missing this game. So Brandon Ayuk got plus 140. I think those are great odds. It's interesting that they have Jordan Mason at plus 130. So again, if McCaffrey's not able to go, you have Jordan Mason at plus 130. You have Elijah Mitchell at plus 135 as well for him to find the end zone. Another one I may be intrigued by, Jawan Jennings at 7-1, anytime touchdown.
Yeah, like that number is probably good if if those guys don't play, but it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to distinguish what's gonna happen because he's gonna get more targets if Debo and Christian McCaffrey are out. But
Yeah.
if they are in, I mean, you kind of like throwing a dart, but I don't hate it. It's worth a shot.
All right. Anything else as far as touchdown props?
Nah, those are the only guys that I have my eye on, really, pretty much.
All right, let's wrap it up with best bets here for this Monday Night Football game here, Lonte. What do you want to give out as your best bet?
I'm going with the Vikings +7. I think they're, like I said, I think they're live. I think it comes down to execution, offensive line being able to block that front of the 49ers. If the 49ers are coming in, they're probably going to get those guys back. I know a lot of people think they're going to be more fired up off a loss, but I just think that the Vikings at home in a good spot, a game they haven't won in front of their fans yet. I think I think they're a healthier team. I think that their offense is a little bit more powerful now than what the 49ers is, with it being banged up with those guys up front. So I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think I'll stick on the money line as well, man. I think they're live to win this.
All right. I lean with here with the Vikings here as well on the side, I think, but my best bet, I'm probably going to go with, I'll go with the Brandon Ayuk over 67.5 on his receiving yards. I think this is a good opportunity for him against a secondary of the Vikings to have some success here. Even if I think both Debo and or Christian McCaffrey play, I think that he's going to be able to, find the soft spots in that defense. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
definitely has some matchup advantages as well against that Viking secondary. Um, and again, I think that even if McCaffrey and Debo play, how effective, number one, are they going to be? And then also, how many snaps do they exactly play? Because again, you still have a whole another 10 weeks left, of
Right.
football to play.
Right.
So you definitely want to keep everybody as healthy as you can. I know the playoffs still are very far away, but again, this is a time where especially that CMC does get hurt every single season. You know that Debo has knick-knack injuries every single season. So you got to keep those guys protected as much as you can. I think maybe one of those two guys did, but again, at this point, I think that Brandon Ayuk is still out for a big week as well. As far as the side, like I mentioned, Vikings +7. I agree 100% with Lonte on that as well. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast. Again, like I mentioned, 2 contests happening on the on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. The Second Chance Survivor. Make sure to get in because it starts NFL Week 7. So hopefully you got to this pod before the games kick off on Sunday. And also the NFL Gambling Podcast Review contest. Touchdown prop contest. Make sure to leave your 5-star review on Apple. Hopefully you're giving us, and then also make sure you are putting the odds for that anytime touchdown score, and also your YouTube username as well. And also do us a favor and subscribe to the NFL Gambling Podcast on the YouTube channel here. And again, give us a like on the stream here as well. Make sure to follow Lonte on Twitter or X, whatever you might want to call it, at XXLonteXX. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. More importantly, follow us on Twitter as well at SGPN NFL. We put our graphic up every single week with our lock, dog, and tease, and then also our power rankings, which is also a great conversation every single week that we have in our little Slack channel there. So again, come tap in with us. It's still a long way to go in the season. Hopefully, we can put some more money in your pockets. We'll be back next week, as we always like to do. Let's take a peek on who it is going to be next week on Monday Night Football. It is going to be, who do we got? I was about to say the 49ers are playing again, but that was on week 8.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We got the Raiders and we've got the Detroit Lions next week.
What a barn burner.
Yeah, what a barn burner indeed. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Good luck with your bets this weekend. Let's break these books off and let it ride.